right. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the Gulf Coast Real Estate Insider Podcast. Today, we've got a special treat. We've got John McLeod. Now, if you don't know John, John is a national real estate coach. He also sells real estate here in Southwest Florida, but I know him as a national real estate coach. You've been doing that for years. You've run real estate offices, and I just wanted to have a conversation with you about the real estate industry, what people are going through. We could talk about buyers and sellers, but my first question, I guess, John, was going to be real estate agents nationwide. I'm hearing they're struggling. I'm hearing it locally. I'm hearing it all over the place. What what is causing that stress with real estate agents right now?
Uh, you know, Brett, I hear it a lot from clients. Like you said, I've got them from all over the country, and some markets are still really strong. Boston, for instance, is crazy strong. Southwest Florida, where we are, people consider this market to be very difficult. Um, I think a large part of the problem is most of the agents in these marketplaces have been in the business for less than 5 years. Let's face it, we're in a high turnover industry, and most of the agents haven't had to experience a market that requires a different type of thinking, a different type of prospecting, and frankly, a different type of conversation with the client.
So, okay, so let's assume the market has shifted in their market. I mean, it's certainly shifted here in Southwest Florida. I think we shifted before the rest of the country, but
Absolutely.
and the rest of the country seemed like it was on fire. There was no inventory, and our inventory was piling up. So now the rest of the country is starting to feel that what we've already been going through. What in a shifted market, things change a little bit. Let's talk about some of those changes and how agents have to adapt to that, and how buyers and sellers have to adapt to it.
Well, some of the things that have happened over the past few years, Brett, is um, the fury that happened from 2020 through 2022 and even in 23. Um, Most of the buyers, or at least that we saw in our marketplace, most of the buyers were cash buyers. They were reallocating assets from one investment strategy into real estate. Um, the work at home due to the pandemic caused an awful lot of that. And quite frankly, a market that had been undervalued for years. If you look at it historically, the real estate market after the banking issue and the crash in 08, 09, the real estate market was grossly undervalued based on historical returns. So what happened when the pandemic kicked in? People realized that for one way or another, whether they just looked at a chart and said, hey, real estate's undervalued, or became lemmings and said, my buddy bought a house, I have to buy a house, and created a snowball effect. Real estate values have now gotten back to the point where they are at where they should be, maybe slightly higher on a historical, if you go back on a 40 or 50-year historical trend, they might be slightly higher than where they should be. That's one of the contributing factors. Another one is interest rates. What drove the fact that the market went so high is the fact you could borrow money at less than the rate of inflation.
It was
So
free money. It
yeah,
was
it's
free
free
money.
money, and that's bad for the economy on so many levels because it triggers things like out of control inflation, which we've seen in the years following. And it's never going to happen again. We are never going to have interest rates at 2.5 or 3% again. It's unstable, unrealistic. Just
So is that
don't
a
expect
false
it to happen.
expectation? People are thinking I'm going to wait till rates go to 2.5%.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, it's a false expectation, and it drives a false narrative that at some point A that could happen, and B waiting that long could be a good thing.
Okay, so we know how we got here. We know why we got here. The fact is, we're here. Now, what do we do about it? So, if you're a real estate agent, they're struggling. Are they having the right kinds of conversations with their sellers, with their buyers?
Well, that I'm going to tell you that are not. Um, Rhetorical question, Brett. Are there enough property sales happening in Fort Myers for you to reach your goal and exceed your goal?
Absolutely, there is.
Okay,
Yes.
so we don't have a lack of business. If another agent came into Fort Myers and wanted to sell 100 homes a year, are there enough homes selling for that agent to also meet their goal.
Yeah, they certainly could, because that's only 9 homes a month, 9 to 10 homes a month. That's only 100 sales a year, and we're having 700, 800 plus per month. So certainly someone could come in and do that.
Okay, there's so
Plus,
the
we have the condos, the land, all the other sales.
sure.
But yeah, you could do that.
Okay, so the narrative that we as an industry are saying is the market is tough, yet there are enough sales to support virtually every agent who does this as a full-time business.
What you're saying is any agent can do it, but not every agent does. This shifting markets, they weed out the ones that are serious and going to do it versus the ones that don't have the skills and can't do it.
Yes. And now the skill that they don't have, in my opinion, is as an industry, for some reason, we're taught that our job is to price a home. And I'll challenge anybody in that. Our job is not to price a home.
What is our job?
Our job is to understand the market.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the market price is the home, right?
The market price is the home. Okay. It's just like you go to the grocery store and you want to buy a gallon of milk. Doesn't matter what grocery store you go into, a gallon of milk is a gallon of milk. It costs what a gallon of milk costs. If you want the convenience of not having to drive farther to a grocery store, you can go to a convenience store and you got to pay a little bit more for that gallon of milk for the convenience. All right. Real estate's no different. If a house is worth $500,000 today, it has to be worth $500,000 to two people. You know what I mean by that?
Buyer and the seller.
Exactly. The buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
So if I put my property on the market for $500,000 and a buyer comes in and the best offer I get is $450,000, I say no. Okay, I bought my house back.
$450,000.
Exactly. I bought the house back.
Right.
Now, this is where agents tend to get hung up on this. They'll look back at data and say, well, the data tells us, the historical data tells us that your house should be worth $500,000. Today's data, right in the moment, is telling us something different. So the question that agents are having a hard time asking sellers is this. So, Brett, we have the offer of $450,000. You say no, great. In essence, and we've had this conversation, I'm an agent who will tell a seller that they're buying their house back. Just know it, and it's okay. It's your decision. So, but Brett, let's go back to why you're selling the house in the first place. You choose, it's your decision. You choose not to move forward with a buyer like this. What are you saying no to in the future?
So let's say I'm a seller and I have a job opportunity in Atlanta.
Okay.
I want to take the job. I have to move my family there, but I can't afford a house in Atlanta and afford a house here. So I've got some choices to make. So what you're saying is if the 450s that looks like the best we're getting on this house, if I say no to it, I'm not only saying no to this offer, I'm saying no to moving my family to Atlanta.
Yeah. So, Brett, tell me about the advantages for your family when you make the move to Atlanta.
Well, the kids are excited about the new school district, and it would be wonderful if I could get them in for the school year because they've already picked out the school. They've been a couple friends. I get about a 8% bump in pay, and the cost of living is similar for the area that we picked. There was just a lot of pluses to do this, and we thought it made a lot of sense.
Okay. I love that. So, by not accepting an offer at 450, you're saying you are in essence telling your kids you're not going to get to go to school there. You're telling your wife we're not going to get this 8% raise. And you're telling your entire family that 8% raise goes a long way with a similar cost of living. You've increased your economic viability, if you will, in that marketplace by 8% simply by the income.
Can't we just wait another few weeks for a better offer?
Well, we could, but before we go down that road, Brett, let me ask you this. Can you get a calculator out for me? And you can
Okay.
do that. I know you're smart enough, Brett, to do this in your head, but I would ask every seller to do the same thing.
Get my calculator out. All
Okay.
right.
So What's 8% of $500,000?
500,000 times 0.08. That's $40,000.
Okay. So how different is this offer from 1 year difference in cost of living for you?
Gosh, when you put it like that, this taking this 450 pays for itself in the first year.
Yeah, first year, maybe year and a half, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Now, Brett, you asked about another offer in coming weeks. So today, right now, as a seller in Lee County, do you feel that the market is working for you or against you?
Well, all the realtors I've talked to have said it's going down.
Okay, so if the realtors are saying that, do you think that their buyers are thinking the same thing?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So if our best offer today is 450 and the market is trending in a downward direction, what offer are we going to get in 4 to 6 weeks?
Be less than 450.
Okay. In that case, our value today is likely the highest it's going to be in the time frame that you have to make a decision to be able to make that move to Atlanta.
Well, I see what you've done there. You've isolated what my options are today versus what they could be in the future.
Mm-hmm. Now, at any point as an agent, did I take ownership of the price of the property?
No, because it's not your property, it's not your money. You are counseling me as a homeowner. What do I want to do? What is best for me and my family? But you did that by asking questions and uncovering the true motivation of the seller.
Yep. And
It,
Brett, for you and I have been doing this for a long time. I have never met a seller that 100% of their motivation was money. There's always something because they're going to do something with that money. That's their true motivation.
John, I'll tell you a story. This is a true story that happened to me back in, I'm going to guess, 1990 or 91 or so. I lived in a subdivision. Uh, it was called East Side at San Carlos Pines. And one of my neighbors called me and said, "We want to list my house." And I remember, believe it or not, going to this house and it being worth in the 85 to $88,000 range. If you priced outside of that, you were not selling. I mean, it was
Yep.
just that tight back then. And our first offer came in. I think we were listed at 88 or 87.9 or something like that. It came in around 85. And I just asked them, and I knew where they were going. They were going to Houston. Um, their daughter had, I can't remember the type of cancer, but they had a cancer and she had a little one, like 1 or 2 years old. And um, they were asking the grandparents to move there because they weren't 100% sure she was going to make it. So she was going to Baylor University
Mm-hmm.
Hospital. And so I started asking questions. And I'm so glad I did because it really changed my career. I got in business in 88. But I said, I brought it back to what's causing this move? Why are you going to Houston? Well, our daughter. I had them tell the story. Our daughter's got the cancer, and we need to be there for our little ones, for our grandkids to take care of them because our daughter's not going to be able to. And they didn't know if she was going to make it. And I said, okay. So, and this $85,000 offer came up. It was right where it needed to be, but they said, Brett, we don't need to sell. I said, I know you don't need to sell. But if we don't take this offer of 85,000 and hold out for an $86,000 offer, your daughter needs you, your grandkids need you. What will it do to you and your family if you're not there for another 3 or 4 months? And it hit them. Now,
Yep.
these are people who said we don't need to sell. Financially, they did not need to sell. That is a true statement. But those 3 or 4 months they can never get back. And what if their daughter's no longer with them? And what if those grandkids don't have their parents and they don't have a familiar grandparents help raise them and being with them while their daughter's going through such a tough time? What price do you put on that? And
Yeah.
when they stopped and thought about it, they said, well, we've got to take this offer. Now, this was not my money, not my house. And yet I'm forever moved by that situation. And I never would have gotten their motivation if I hadn't asked deep questions to find out what is important about this, because I think that makes a difference when you're evaluating an offer. And not every offer is going to be as dramatic as life or death and taking care of grandkids. And yet, for every seller, their situation in the moment feels like it's almost as important as that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a job opportunity. It could be a divorce. It could be a new relationship. It could be a family member that's aging. It could be a job that's lost. You're fired and you're just trying to do something for your family. It could be you just hate the weather here, or it just could be anything.
So, Brett, do you know who Brian Gubernick is? I'm going to give him credit for this.
Yes.
I'm sure Brian got this concept from somebody else. But one of the tools that I use with a seller and frankly with buyers that are having the same challenge is how do you compensate and reconcile a number, because that's what we're taught as an industry. Our parents teach us you're paying $3,000 too much for this house, all of that stuff. How do you make it that reconciliation? So I have people imagine a strip of paper with numbers 0 to 100 on it. I say, okay, great. Now here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to think about your true reason for moving. And let's say you're going to be closer to family. Awesome. Start by ripping off at 81 and throw everyone from 81 away.
81 down or
81 and
up?
up.
Okay.
Everything from 81 and higher up. Now I'd like you to take your age and rip that paper at your age and throw everything from your age lower away. And you're left with a strip of paper. So how many numbers are on there? Now, in my case, there's 24, okay? Because in 24 years, I'll be 81. That's how much time I have left in a perfect world. I could get on my bike tomorrow morning, and I'm afraid to say this. I'm getting on my bike tomorrow morning. I could get on my bike tomorrow morning and not come home. So it could be shortened. I might be lucky and live past that. But actuarially, that's my number. Now, the hard part of that is when you think about your reason for moving, and let's say it's to be closer to family. How often do you see your family now? Once a year. Okay. So currently you have 3 weeks left with your family. That's all you've got left on your clock is 3 weeks out of the next 24 years. How do you feel about that?
Why is it 3 weeks out of 24?
One day a year times
Oh, okay.
24.
Okay.
Okay.
All
So
right.
3.5 weeks, less than a
Yeah.
month.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. I got you.
You got 24 days left with your family. So if and it's your right to say no to this offer that's $15,000 less. Is $15,000 worth giving up extra days with your family that you don't have?
No, when you put it like that, no.
Okay. This isn't about money. This is about your time, because your time is what you cannot replace. You can replace money. Shoot, money's not hard to replace, Brett. You and I know that. And frankly, everybody, doesn't matter what financial position you're in, deep down, you know that you can go out and find a way to make more money. You cannot make more time. So don't be afraid to drive that point home to people. You and I have talked a lot about, man, it's in a tough market, it's always best to be the second or third agent in, because the sellers are finally realistic. Well, what if you were the first agent in and you actually could teach the seller how to be realistic?
Well, John, that's what I would love to do, is teach agents to do that. You know why? I'm not only doing the first agent a favor, I'm really doing those sellers a favor, because the longer
Absolutely.
their home sits on the market, the more agents they burn through, the less they're going to take in the end. If
Yep.
they had a strong agent that would counsel them the first time, it will be better off for them than a strong agent the second or third time.
So I'm going to give you two real examples that happened right now. Okay. I just sold a property in North Fort Myers for $184,000. All right. Another agent had it listed for $250,000. There was no way in the world it was going to sell at $250,000. However, the agent did convince the sellers that that was the right price. Zero showings. So when I took the listing, I said, all right, what's your timeline? And it's funny because this particular couple was planning to move to the Atlanta area. So it's funny you use Atlanta as an example. Says, well, I need to be there by the end of August. Okay, we have a little time. So let's price it here. And after a week, if we don't have showings, we're going to reevaluate the price. No showings. So we started at 225, immediately dropped it to 200, then dropped it to 189, and then dropped it to 179, and then got multiple offers and sold it at 184. By the way, the price appraised at 185. Now, the funny story about this is when he called his employer to tell him that he was quitting and taking a job in Atlanta, they matched the salary and he stayed. And he ended up purchasing another home here. Market sets the price. Got another listing that I'm now the third agent on, and they started at a particular price. The next one dropped it down. I've got it now at a price lower than two offers that they had received earlier this spring.
And that's what's happening. That's what's
The market's
happening to
going the
people.
wrong direction.
Yeah. And I've noticed some big adjustments in the last month. I
Yep.
mean, it's moving the market.
So Brett, it's I know you've seen the three outcomes fishing sheet. Anybody that sends either one of us a message will make that available, and it's frankly it's the easiest listing presentation on the planet. One of three things is going to happen when you put your home on the market. You can have low or no showings. What does that tell you?
Overpriced.
Probably overpriced by a significant amount if no one's coming to see it. And we'll get you all the scripts and everything. This is a very shortened version of it. We'll get you all the scripts that go with it. But second thing that happens is you can have showings and no offers. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, right? And the third thing is your property is going to sell. Which outcome do you want? It's rhetorical because you always want number three. However, this simple one-page sheet teaches agents how to have a real pricing conversation with sellers. So anybody that wants it, just reach out to either you, reach out to me, and we'll get that to you. Not a problem.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered uncovering the motivation for the seller. And once sellers understand that, once you rip the piece of paper, which I love that, by the way, I haven't heard that one before, but
Okay.
I do love it. I may use that because I would want someone to use that kind of stuff with me because sometimes I get fixated on my head. John, have you ever had a seller that said, I'm not losing money? I never lose money in real estate. So I bought this at 412. I'm not selling below 412.
Okay.
Now, to
Terrific.
me, that's an ego statement. You want to be able to say forevermore that I've never lost a dime in real estate, but you're losing something. You're losing time. You're losing time with your family. And what if you had to wait 10 years for it to come back to 412? I
Well,
mean,
that Brett, that's a discussion for a completely another topic. Is the cost it gets the true cost of waiting. But let me go back, if you would, for just a second about I never lose money in real estate. Okay. So Brett, have you ever invested in the stock market? Okay, great. If you think back to when you started investing to what you have in the stock market today, are you up?
yes,
Okay. Have you ever owned a stock that lost?
yes,
Oh, interesting. So your stock market portfolio has had winners and losers, but in the end, you have won.
yes.
All right. You think back to when you first started buying real estate. You don't have to give me a number, but just think about the number that you used when you first started investing in real estate. All right. Do you have more than that in real estate today?
Yes.
Okay. And if you sold this house that you bought for 412, let's say you sold it for 390, just as an example. Do you still have more money in real estate today than you did when you started?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask, why is it important for you to look at an individual transaction in real estate versus your entire real estate portfolio over time when it's so easy for you to look at your entire stock portfolio over time and apply a different principle?
Right. No, funny thing is because that is true for 99% of the people. I've had a few sellers that said, all I ever seem to do is lose money on every deal I do, no matter where I go. They just,
Then rent.
but that's not true for most people.
Right.
You buy real estate for a period of time, over time, it goes up, just like stocks have gone up. It's just, that's the way money flows.
Yep.
And
And how many times have you heard a seller say, well, I'm losing money based on what I had 2 years ago?
that was paper money, John. You didn't
Yeah.
really, and there's an old saying at Keller Williams that says, change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yep.
And I look at opportunity cost. So that 412, you're basically buying your house back at 412, and it's a house that's not worth 412. You paid 412 for a house that might be worth 390 now.
Yep.
But you don't want to be here. You want to do something different. But if you had reinvested that 390 into something else, do you think it's going to go up faster than the house you're in at 412 that's not really worth 412? No,
Yeah.
because you got to wait a few years or 5 or 10 years for it to even get back to 412. That's a negative return. If you just cash out now and move it to something where you want to be, your time, your life, your family,
Yep.
and put it into something else, the chances are it may go up more than the overpriced home that you're in now because you've bought it back at 412.
Exactly.
But I think sellers get a little stuck, and we as human beings do, because my stuff is always worth more than my neighbor's stuff. But when I go to buy, the funny thing is I always want to pay less. It's like
Yeah.
if you envision a car, what's that car worth? Pick a car, it doesn't matter, any car. Pick a house, any house.
Yep.
To the buyer, it's always worth less. To the seller, it's always worth more because the buyer doesn't want to overpay, and the
Yep.
seller has sentimental value and says, "Well, it's mine. I've taken great care of it. I've improved it. I've washed it once a week for the last 13 years. I've done this. I put a new door on. I put a new radiator on last month.
Yep.
Why'd you put a new radiator on? Well, it was smoking. It was it. You had to do it to keep it running. The
Yeah.
house, the car isn't worth more because there's a new radiator on a 13-year-old car.
Exactly. And a buyer of something is buying an unknown. So there's an intrinsic depreciation because they don't know 100% what they're getting into. A seller that's had a property for years is selling based on a collection of feelings, in most cases, associated with the property. My kids grew up here. My grandkids learned how to swim in my pool. Right. We've had 4 dogs living with us in this house on different occasions that were just like family members. My daughter graduated high school here. My son got married here. Whatever the case is, we have emotional value that we want to convert into cash, and that doesn't work. My emotional value on my property does not have any value to you. Okay, so I need to learn to be able to separate that emotional capital as memories that I take with me, and I don't have to sell with the property. That comes with me. The intrinsic value of the house is what it is.
You know where I see this really show up, John? It's one thing when it's your emotional value and your memories, but it's almost worse when it's a family member. So let's say a dear family member, let's say it's your parents. They leave you an estate, and the biggest thing in the estate is a house. Now, this house might be a 1972 house that hasn't been updated in 25 years, and it might have the shag carpet, and it might have paint that hasn't been painted in 20 years, and a 22-year-old air conditioner, but it still runs, all these things. But because it was my parents' house, they entrusted me with their estate. That means for me, to my respect for my parents, I want to get the most out of it because my dad, my mom, they took such good care of this house. Anything was wrong with it, they fixed it. Now they didn't fix the air conditioner. It's 22 years old because it still runs. They didn't paint it because they loved it. They didn't replace shag carpet because that's what they wanted. But it's almost like I see a lot of kids will hold on to the memory of the parents, and they want to do honor to the parents by getting the absolute top dollar for something that doesn't have top dollar to the public because it needs
Yep.
this, but it's that emotional attachment, the respect and honor you're going to give to your parents by not giving this thing away. But you're really not giving it away. You're selling it at today's market value. And the
Yep.
home needs a new roof, a new air conditioner, it needs new paint, it needs new carpet, it needs that kitchen, those yellow dated appliances that technically still run, but that's not what sells today. You can't hold on to I mean, you can do anything you want. And some families need to hold on to it for a year until they work through those memories. But it doesn't always serve you or serve your parents. But I get it. It's that emotional thing.
Yep. Love it.
And
All right.
that's
So, Brett, we got a couple things coming up on our next episodes. One, we're doing a wing comparison on our next journey, right? Buffalo Chips versus North Bonita Country Club.
we can do that. And that's
Yep.
a separate thing, by the way, on the YouTube channel. If you want to see our wings review. Yeah, so we definitely got to do that. What's the other thing, John?
The other thing that I think we should cover is the cost, the true cost of waiting to get your number. And I've got
John,
all kinds of graphs on that
let's do
to
that.
show that.
I just did this with a seller in the last week.
Okay.
We talked about the cost of ownership, and we went deep down their life and what it meant, and we analyzed things. I would love to see what you've got graph wise and whatnot.
Awesome.
So let's do that on a future show. John, I want to have you as a regular guest. We have Sandy on here, and there's other guests that we'll have on too. But this has been so helpful, I think, for agents, for sellers, for buyers, and just people in life, just to kind of understand what goes on and what realtors do. A good realtor is much more than just a real estate agent.
Yep.
It's almost like we're a good bartender. You have to listen to people's life story, find out what's important, and then the guidance comes in. That's when the wisdom comes in, and it doesn't happen in a year. And that's why I think so many agents are struggling. If they can learn these skills earlier in their career, they'll do better. They'll make it. What's the
You got
stat?
that right.
How many? 85% fail within the first 5 years?
I think it's been the first 2.
2 years. Okay.
85% are done after 2 years.
So that's not a good stat. We'd like to help agents make it after 2 years. So, yeah. And this is why you're a wonderful coach, and top agents across the country hire you as well.
I appreciate that. Brett, it's been awesome.
Thanks for tuning in. You've been watching the Gulf Coast Real Estate Insider. We've got a true insider with John McLeod. Thanks for coming on, John.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it. We'll see you later.
All right. We'll see you.
The Ellis team at Keller Williams is a family affair. Always call the Ellis team. They'll handle you with care.